And welcome to the God is a Geek podcast, episode 475. My name's Adam Cook, and I'm your host this week, and most weeks, not all weeks, not every week. You can't say that. That would be a false truth. Is that a word, Christopher White? Is that a word?
Yeah, if you want.
Took you by surprise, I think, with the speed of which I came to you then, didn't I?
I know, I wasn't expecting you. You do come quite fast normally, but that was quicker than normal. So
it's also earliest we've ever had a podcast title for a week, isn't it, Christopher Hyde?
It is. Yeah, normally takes a few minutes to get going and say something inappropriate to get a title, but good on Chris White for coming in early, so to speak.
And that's, all it really remains is for Lyle to say something inappropriate very quickly, isn't it? Hello, Lyle.
Hello, ejaculate.
Ooh. Yeah. I mean, that is also a podcast title in itself, I suppose. But why am I speaking so quickly? Like, can anyone guess why I'm speaking this quickly? And
because there's so many games, Adam.
Yes! Yeah. God damn it!
Mm-hmm. So many.
Yes, sorry, I didn't mean to shout at you. That was unprofessional and rude and unbecoming of a man of my stature. I'm giddy. I'm giddy with excitement because we get to talk about not one, not two, that way around if you're watching on the video. Sorry, I wasn't trying to swear at our viewers. But 3 games that have only been released. Well, at the time of recording, they haven't been released, some of them, and one of them has, and that's a really convoluted and complicated way of saying Dying Light 2 is kind of out now-ish in the future when you're watching this. And of all the people that haven't played it, sorry, Lyle, you haven't played it. Chris White has reviewed it. Chris Hyde and I have played it also and had planned to play it co-op. We'll get on to that. That didn't happen, by the way, but we'll get on to that. So, where do we want to start? Because Dying Light 2 has been, they say, 1,500 people it took to make it, 7 years in the making. 8 out of 10. I mean, what more can you...
Right, well, there's all this bollocks last month with 500 hours.
Yeah, that was a mistake,
500
wasn't it?
hours. Oh, God, we're never going to finish it. Oh, actually, it's only 20. But if you spend 500 hours, you get to complete everything. Right, well, that's a lot of games you can spend 500 hours with. That's not a selling point for me, for anyone, right? Brass tacks, the game itself, I enjoyed it a lot. It's just fun to play. That's the main thing. The story, it was always going to be better than the first because it was just as generic as they come. You know, we're just throwing a story in because we're more interested in the combat. So with this one, it is better. I enjoyed it a lot more.
I think the intro is better. Sorry, I don't mean to cut.
No.
But I must admit, the intro. I think the intro was. I think the intro is really cool in this game. But can I ask a question? I know, obviously, I know Lyle hasn't played this yet, but both Chris's here. Is it the same voice actor as in the first game? I know it's a different character.
Doubt it.
I thought it wouldn't be, but
it's interesting because we had this conversation about whether it's the same character originally because it sounds.
Well, I never finished the first game.
Is it because they're as vanilla as possible?
Well, yeah, I think that's more of the point
because the character is dull as dishwater.
That's fair.
He is a boring protagonist. He is boring, but the story is.
No, the story's quite cool,
and it's the characters that kind of make it. You're introduced, I wouldn't say massively early on, but you meet someone called Luan, who's voiced by Rosario Dawson, who's brilliant in everything she does. But she plays that character excellently, and a lot of the side quests feel. I mean, a lot of them are go here, meet this person, kill these.
Yeah.
But there's an actual, genuinely difficult choices. Like when you watch The Walking Dead, for example, and, they end on a real, shitter. In Dying Light 2, you know it's going to go down badly. And it's in this world that's completely destroyed and ruined. And any kind of semblance of hope you have to kind of cling to. So these stories are tragic, but there is light in each one, a dying light, but a light nonetheless. But they are quite smart in how they tell the story. I genuinely enjoyed it and how the kind of characters come into it. There's no real two-dimensional characters in the main story, for me anyway. I know a lot of people online have slated it because they're all miserable bastards, but I actually think it was quite good.
It's kind of a miserable setting, though. To be fair,
yeah.
If they're all skipping around,
exactly.
It would be a bit weird.
Did they ever go Days Gone for the same thing, or The Last of Us for not being
it's
playing
mental,
fairground music?
I don't want to turn this into that, But like,
Nah, but one day we'll do it. One day we'll do it.
Just like, just get a life. Yeah, you didn't enjoy it, but some people are so like reviewers. I don't want to name anyone in particular.
Bloody reviewers.
Some
I hate
reviewers are
reviewers.
just really vile towards it. So just go and fuck yourselves. Right? It's a fun game, and yeah, it's not perfect. And I'm not defending Techland here, but
I don't think they need your defense, mate. I think they're doing all
they
right.
don't need my defense, and they're not asking for it. I've not been paid. Surprisingly, if anyone's watching, because I know people like to.
Do you know what the fucking joke is? It's just off camera. Hang on.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Hide it,
Awkward.
hide it,
Awkward
hide it.
product
It's arrived in
placement
the
there.
post. Like, it's bigger than my fucking head, and I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah, where's mine? Techland.
I know, mate. I'll send
4
it
out
you.
of 10.
No, but
Anyway,
like, I'm not. Even, I
anyway.
didn't review it. It's very. I should say, I'm not being an ungrateful twat. That's very kind of them to send that. But like, I really was like, what on earth is that? And then it was from Display, and I honestly thought, oh, the kids have got hold of my account, haven't they? Because I have got a Display. So like, if you're watching the video, there's a Zelda one I paid for because I loved that game and that bit of art. And then when this arrived, I honestly thought, oh, because my son had mentioned his mate.
Which
his
Zelda
mate.
game is that?
Moving on. My son had mentioned his mate was really looking forward to Dying Light 2, and it was his birthday coming up. So when that arrived, I was genuinely like, oh, this has been so long. But yeah, the actual game. I mean, Chris Hyde, I know you're a massive fan of the first one, and we're fairly excited to play the second one, right? Not that you aren't or weren't or didn't like it. I'm just mean you were excited to play it.
No.
I don't know why I need to again take my big company. They don't need my kindness. Fuck them is what I'm saying.
There's a lot of aggression. Okay, right. There's lots of things I want to say about this. So,
wow. Okay.
It's interesting. Like you started off, Chris, with the whole 500 hours thing, which I admit, from a marketing PR point of view, is a massive misstep. But
too many people
do that. There's a really
that.
interesting point we have to make about this game with the whole 500 hours thing, and the story being 20 hours, right? Because there's a lot of stuff in this game. There's a lot of content. There's a lot of stuff you can get lost in.
They weren't lying.
They weren't lying. Absolutely not.
No.
But and the good thing is, like the world as it is relatively free to explore that from fairly early on, right? You know, once you get into the city proper and you know you do a couple of missions, like right now you can be free and go and explore. The biggest piece of advice I would give to anyone playing this game, and I have found this out the hard way, is play the main story first, and unlock a lot of the fun stuff that you don't get at the start of the game. There's lots of extra traversal stuff that you just don't have at your disposal, and what you find is that if you do go off exploring, like I invariably do as soon as I get the option to do so, I'll go and, you know, find all the icons on the map. Oh, there's a question mark. Well, I'm gonna have to go and find out what that is, because I can't possibly go to the, you know, main mission quest marker, because that would be too straightforward. So, you know, I'm always going off exploring, checking things off. But at the start of this game, you have less options at your disposal. You're quite a weak character. And if you don't play the story to kind of build that up and build your options up, things will feel unnecessarily challenging, frustrating. You'll try and do some like speed challenges and feel really slow and can't work out why, because you haven't got enough stamina to move around and stuff like that. But the game doesn't really tell you that, because it wants you to play it your own way, which is fine, apart from the fact that it locks a lot of some of the fun stuff into the story later on. Now, I appreciate a game's not going to say play the story because you'll unlock a, you know, paraglider or whatever.
No. But they had shown that stuff.
Yes, and I think
like it's not spoiler. They have shown the you know, we're talking about grapple hook, the as you say, the glider. They'd shown that stuff in trailers. Yeah,
and I think it's more like for me, I think you've probably played about the same amount of time, maybe a bit more. I don't know. We haven't talked recently.
Well, in terms of hourage, maybe, but in terms of content,
I played about 10 hours. I have
ish, give or take,
ish, maybe that sort of area. Anyway, and I don't know. I haven't unlocked any of those big
no,
things.
same, and I haven't got a clue how far off I am from them either.
And that is me spending a bit of time doing some side missions, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But then taking a decision to go and do the story missions because I want to progress in all these things, because I know that when I do, I'm going to have a lot of fun. Just looking at the review video and watching Chris swing around with a grappling, I'm like, oh my God, that looks amazing.
We need to sort of mention that actually specifically, because it was only... I didn't do the video review for this, Mick did, so I hadn't seen Chris's footage. But Chris White, it was only seeing your footage. And obviously we chatted about the grapple hook and stuff prior to that, because there's like the guides up and all that. It was only seeing it in action, and I was genuinely, like Chris, I saw it, I was like, that looks cool. I would have given someone one of them a lot earlier, because this is a sequel, and to empower someone who played the first game to feel like they've got something new in the sequel other than a different character in a different location, giving them like in the chat there, Kieran's said, I saw someone say you have to unlock the ability to sprint. That's not strictly true. There is an ability that gives you like an extra bit of sprint that lets you jump further. That is someone, I feel like, trying to make a narrative that isn't there. You kind of sprint by default. Like you are running all the time. You click the stick and you unlock an ability.
It's fast because it's about parkour. Parkour is fast.
Yeah, so it's I guess it's like I suppose it is a sprint versus a run, right? In terms of you run by default when you move.
Yeah, you're running all the time.
You wouldn't be able to parkour if you were walking, but like, yes, there is a thing to say here. You can sprint and therefore jump further, which is a parkour ability to.
Yes, it's an ability to jump further. Essentially,
that's really what it is.
Via the mechanic of making you run a little bit quicker before you jump
to give you momentum, right?
Like in real life, I suppose.
Yeah. Well,
how a long jumper jumps further than if you just walked and then jumped.
I didn't use that. I barely used that.
I did. I
barely
used that one.
Barely used like there are other mechanics that you could use, like, without sprinting, without unlocking that, you can like jump over an object and press L your left shoulder, and it throws you forward. There's another one that throws you up. Like, I would use that more than just running, like sprinting.
See, I was going to unlock that one, but I didn't quite understand. It sounded like it would be awkward to do, and now I'm regretting not unlocking it.
The one that kind of pulls you forward is easy. It's the one that launches into air that doesn't really make any sense. Because it doesn't really help.
Yeah, the push forward one is a bit like, it gave me like Spider-Man vibes. You know, when you kind of bounce off a...
Yeah, you get the extra momentum
and you get the
from
boost. It's a bit like that, isn't
hill
it,
spring
Chris?
almost.
So,
yes.
And that's handy.
I like the parkour in this game, by the way.
The parkour is fantastic.
That's probably why I'm so far behind in the story, because I kind of love... So I love the movement. I will say I have one problem with this game, and I think, again, it's a thing based on how I haven't finished it, if you know what I mean, is that I think they've got a bit of a problem. Like, the game looks beautiful on PS5, like really, really, really does shine. It looks lovely. But I think there's a bit of old design, almost habits in here. So, like, early on in the game, it makes you, via a mission, it's a tutorial mission, go to a rooftop garden where there are, like, I forget if there's enemies there at that one or not. I don't think there are, but there's like they tell you the grass is tall. That's how you can spot these rooftop gardens. And there's some honey from the bees. Is it chamomile plants, and often some the ultraviolet mushrooms that help you later on. It feels like what they did then is they got that roof, went click copy and click paste onto other roofs in the environment, and they did the same with the windmills, but changed them when you got a bit closer to make them different sort of climbing puzzles. And what I found myself doing is that I have no frame of reference for anything in that area. I don't know where anything is without using the map, without going, put that icon on there, because if you don't, I won't find it. You know, you need to set that waypoint, because there's no landmark I've seen yet to be able to go, well, I come out the base and I kind of go that way over there. Whereas, like, even in the first game, when you would come out of the hotel, the big high-rise hotel base thing, I always feel like I would, if I go left over there, there's that little bit of, there's a few buildings you can jump over. It all felt quite distinct. Whereas what I've played so far, while it looks great and I think it plays really well. I actually really like the combat as well, for the record. Just going to say that I like the combat. It's cool and different. I'm finding the environment like is losing me a bit, because I'm getting lost in the environment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of so again, this is like early areas, Chris. So forgive us if it does change in sort of some of the broader spaces, but certainly the vibe I'm getting, and probably made worse by the amount of backtracking with side missions I'm doing. But yeah, it very much feels like there's a lot of buildings really close together that look quite similar.
It sort of makes sense because they would. That's
yeah,
how
yeah,
architecture
absolutely.
in
but
places
you're totally
works.
right with what you say about the original, where you come out of that big tower. First off, that big tower is a chock-off landmark in itself, so you could you've got a frame of reference to that anyway.
But like those windmills aren't landmarks because I literally at one point at the start of the game when it unlocks and lets you go, it tells you to use your binoculars. I unlocked two of them. And I went to one thinking I was going to the other one that I'd marked because I wasn't looking at the marker. And it's like, this is a bit... I don't think it's like a game-breaking issue.
No, it isn't. But I know what you mean because I can even remember now, like in the original Dying Light, I remember going, okay, if I go that way, I'm going to go to some sort of shanty town area. I know if I go that way, I'm going to go towards a train station. If I go that way, I'm going to go to a built-up area. There was different areas. And maybe because this is so big, you have to go further afield to get to those different areas. Because there is. I've seen different... it's more like chemically type areas with loads of
I started to see some other areas. Yeah,
so I know they exist, but maybe it's just because it's a bigger map. You have to go further afield to get it. But the thing that's really weird because I feel like I've just caned the game down ever since I started speaking. I really, really like it.
No, same. Like I like
really,
it too.
really like this game. It is one of those.
It's fun.
It is really fun, and I think the biggest thing that will divide people on this game is the fact that it's got these stats of how long it's been in development and had so many people working on it. Because I think, and to be honest, some of the stuff they released a couple of years ago about how grand and different this game was going to be, I think that set it up almost for a little bit of a knock-in because. If we had this game, and I'm not belittling it, but if we had this game a couple of years after Dying Light, everyone would be like, it's Dying Light 2, it's same but different and better. Fantastic. That is exactly what I want, and therefore this game is great. And it's really fun. And if people, I'll tell you now, if you like Dying Light, you will like Dying Light 2 100%.
Yeah.
But I think with all of that time and all of the stats and everything else and everything that's gone on, and the promise, I guess, of things, people were expecting something really different. And I think those people that were expecting something really different might be disappointed, but you shouldn't be. Because actually, it's taken the best bits of Dying Light, apart from one, which we do need to talk about, which is the co-op, and made them and kind of multiplied it, right? So it's really... really good fun, and I just I want to keep playing it. There's other stuff I have to play, so I have to keep pausing myself. But for me, that shows you. I played 10 hours, not unlocked as much as anywhere near I want to unlock, and I still want to keep going back and keep going. I'm not throwing it in the bin and going.
It's very easy to lose yourself as time on this. Well, there are some things though. I mean, I think. It's a little unfair to go. And it took this long to develop, blah blah blah. But I think you could guess that was the case because there are just enough things in this game that feel like they aren't quite modern, if that makes sense. Like some of the conversation wheel stuff, like it's very much that a person will have their say and then they will stop and go and adjust themselves to be like, and I'm just going to wait. And then you say your bit, and then they go, oh, blah, 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 blah. And then they sort of stop and go, just adjust myself to be prepared. And that's kind of a little old-fashioned in terms of... But like, again, it's nitpicking, and perhaps unfairly so. We would like to talk about the co-op, but we haven't been able to play it because for some reason, I assume it uses dedicated servers, because otherwise I can't work out why on earth you would disable that pre-launch. Because we couldn't play, and I contacted the PR, and they said it's not turned on till launch day. So why that is?
Idea.
No, I mean, I really would find it amazing if it's dedicated servers, because why would you do that for peer-to-peer 1 to 4 player co-op in a single-player adventure, so to speak, a game world adventure? I also would say that I think there's a certain narrative forming where like the developers come out and said, oh, we've already fixed 1,000 bugs and this day one patch is fixing 1,000 more. Thanks from the 1,500 members of Techland. It's like, look, we get it that you want it to come across as this kind of Techland family thing. People are spending 60 quid on this video game. So saying that you fixed 1,000 bugs and 1,000 more with more to come is like, I don't think that gets the message across they think it does.
That says you had lots of bugs that you shouldn't have had. That
And
doesn't
they
say-
did.
Why
And
are
they
there
did.
so many bugs when this game has been in development for so long?
I mean, what I will. I mean, look, a lot of them have been fixed before
Yes,
launch, which
yes,
is
they have,
great.
yeah.
But yeah, so we don't need
It's
to
not
go
great if you
to
don't have the internet.
No,
But then you can't
no,
listen
no.
to this,
Can
so
I
we
just
can't
say,
warn you
on
anyway.
PC, I didn't have any bugs.
I don't
So that
want to
was
say
nice.
the CP game name, but
yeah, please don't.
I was wondering about that. But in fairness, they did send
I've
out
seen
console
people
code.
compare it, but for
I
me,
have
this
to,
is
and I don't want to.
It's miles apart because this is just. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were things where I was
There
like,
were a
"Are you
couple that really
serious?"
needed fixing that they fixed before launch.
and they fixed them with it, instantly. So that's
Yeah.
fine. That's
But
done.
within a couple of days of people reporting them, they were fixed. So
Yeah,
they probably were
so-
already fixing them, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I don't know. Like, I really do like this game, and I want to get back to it. I'm frightened I won't because it does
I would
seem
like
kind
to
of
just-
relentless.
Just say one more thing before we
Of course, mate. Of
move
course.
on. But like we everything we're saying is accurate with it being. It feels like Dying Light 1.5 as opposed to 2. But like, there's the level design in this game is really exceptional. Like, there's
Yes.
like, just take away the just jumping around the rooftops and it all kind of feeling, because it does, especially near the start.
Yeah, but when
feels
you do
quite
the
similar.
story missions or the what they called it, is it GRE zones where you like
Yeah.
like tells you to come back at night because the
Yeah.
zombies are outside
Yeah.
and like you can explore and it's really tense and brilliant. It's so tense this game. And the chases. We didn't mention the
The
chases.
chases are great.
Yeah, but you get to the city,
Yes.
and it opens up, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, there's some missions within the city which take you inside buildings, and like the main
Yeah.
tower, which you see from the start.
Yeah.
The parkour to get to the spoilers, you have to get to the top of it.
You climb a tower.
The level
In
design
Dying Light, hang on.
in that particular mission where you go inside and climb up, and by this point you've got all your main tools. So you've got the grappling hook, you've got the paraglider, you've got the that's in it. Two main
How does that work, by
movement
the way?
ones.
Because in the
What?
video, like there's like because at first, because I didn't have it, like there's like a reticule. It sort of
That
dancing all over the
stays
screen.
whenever. So you can
What is
change your
that?
tools by the D-pad, can't you? So you
Okay.
you can assign them to the left D-pad input.
Right.
So I would just flick it towards the grappling hook, and then a reticle stays on screen.
Yes.
So whenever you move, that is always there. Like, when you kind of look up, it kind of automatically shifts and locks onto something. Which
Yeah,
can
that's
be
what I was
grappled.
seeing. Yeah.
So like, I would run off a building and I would see something that looks like it could be grappled, and then the reticle would appear, and I'd just swing, jump, and then at the peak of my jump, press our shoulder button to jump in the air. And if there's something else there, I can then you can like multiply kind of like use a grappling hook, so it works really well. But like, there's some fantastic level design in this, which utilizes all these kind of abilities. And then when you go back to like the beginning areas in the old Villador, you've now got a paraglider and you've now got a grappling hook, which makes it like ridiculous. They're so good. Like, it's a lot of fun to play.
I will say as well, like, I do think some of the, I don't want to say set pieces, but the design of the actual main story missions when you are going out inside places and the design of those are really strong. And the experiences that you have that are clearly crafted and intentional by obviously by the team, some of them are really good. You know, I still remember quite a few of them. Like the hospital room right at the beginning, I think is superb, and there's other ones as well.
That's a fantastically tense mission.
So I will say that it's not like when they go through the story, it's not like it's a chore.
I will say, mate. I will say. It ruined the tension for me. Now, Chris obviously had no problems with it. Did you have any bugs with the actual zombies in the PS5 version? Like where you would stealth kill them and then they would suddenly stand bolt upright, but be dead, but upright.
No.
So this happened. I was creeping around and I killed a zombie by stealth. And I'm like, and then suddenly he goes like that straight up in front of me, bolt upright. And I'm like, oh my god, it's an invincible zombie. No, it was like the opposite of a ragdoll glitch, if you know what I mean. Rather than ragdolling around, he just like bolt upright and stood on the spot. I think that's been patched, and that's kind of a shame because that made me laugh. Sometimes bugs are worth keeping in.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to another game? We've talked a lot about Dying Light 2, and I suspect we will continue to play it and talk about it. So, Let's talk about another game then that three of us have played. A different three of us have played, because this one Lyle has reviewed. Gave a 7 out of 10 to it on godisageek.com. I played a little bit of it, and Christopher White's played a little bit of it. OlliOlli World. Very anticipated. 7 years also in the making, this one. It really is. It really has been 7 years since OlliOlli 2.
Yeah, it's been ages, and for those of you who don't remember what was happening 7 years ago, or weren't alive then, do we have any 7-year-old listeners? Maybe.
I hope not.
7 years
After
ago,
Chris started the pod.
Adam, just a quick one. Wasn't OlliOlli 2 our first box quote?
Yeah, damn it. It's out of reach, but yeah, it was.
Dan Murphy.
That's right.
There you
There
go.
you go. I was looking at it the other day. I doubt you'll be able to see it on camera. If you're not watching this, if you're just listening to it, this is going to be a bit unusual. But yeah, there you can just about see it there, somewhere there. There, Sublime, 10 out of 10. God is a Geek. It's the collection.
That was it.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's one of those things. It's pretty cool. It's a cool thing to have. But Lyle, OlliOlli World.
Yeah, so
Is it Sublime?
yeah, it's not quite sublime. Don't think about that though. It's a so yeah, if you're not aware, sort of 2D side-scrolling skateboarding game, very fast reactions, sort of Twitch, combo based, all this sort of stuff. It's really very cool. I think there's definitely a midpoint in the game that's very, very strong. But I think the start and the end could maybe do with a little bit of one could do with speeding up and the other could do with slowing down, I suppose. But essentially, you'll go through the levels. There's a great story that's sort of nonsense. It's set in a world called Radlandia.
Oh.
And the goal of the game is to meet all of the skateboarding gods, so that you can ascend to Nirvana. And these are all words.
N-A-R.
Yeah,
is.
no, I got that, because this is apparently
just making
written
sure
in
everyone did.
1985.
Yeah, I tried to include as many words in the review that
I did notice that. Yeah,
that would have to be
tubular in there,
said,
didn't you, at
like
some point?
tubular and
Yeah.
shred and all the great skateboarding words. I mean, it's a real, yeah, pretty much. It's a beautiful game.
Yes.
For the biggest highlight, I would say the aesthetic is about as much exactly what I want as any game has ever been before.
It looks expensive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I booted up again
definitely.
today, and I was like, this looks expensive now. Like, it looks really like a lot of money's gone into the look.
Yeah, like it's kind of
Sadly.
it's incredibly colourful, like beautiful art. Like the environments even are not only pretty but really like sort of oddly varied. Like you'll have all sorts of to say that you're just realistically just going to be focusing on rails, there'll be levels on a beach where you're grinding up and down places. There's a forest world where there's massive never explained like sort of like gargantuan bees, like literally like this like sort of like also like almost like kaiju level bees that are holding up like walls for you to grind on. None of it's really explained why the world is how it is, but unfortunately the actual gameplay eventually just becomes far too complex. Really was my experience anyway. It was that you get to the point where every time you're in the air, if you're not doing the best tier of trick to get into the air, then doing a grab, then doing a spin, then landing perfectly on the rail, then if you get off the rail and it's flat ground, if you're not manualing, you'll get like nowhere near a high enough score. There were levels where I'd like it had been, it taken quite a while to get through them. I thought I'd sort of learnt the level pretty well, and I'd reach the end. I'd be like, oh my god, that was a great run! Like I've done fantastic, and I had like a tenth of the score I'd need to hit the lowest bracket, and it was incredibly disheartening to the point of me basically just going, you don't need the scores to progress, it's just to unlock cosmetics, really. So it just got to the point where it's like, I'm just treating this game like a platform game, and I'm just going to try and get to the goal and not think about doing tricks, because the amount they expect of me on every level, and the amount they expect me to sort of, with every single stage, to sort of memorize the exact route I'm going to do and the exact chain of commands I'm going to do, it was overwhelming, entirely overwhelming. And for the right person, there'll be some people who hear all that and think that's going to be amazing. I'm going to sink so much time into this. I love this sort of game. And, I think OlliOlli World will be perfect for some people. I mean, it's been reviewing generally higher than the score I gave it. So a lot of those people seem to be playing it, I guess. But I just sort of found it kind of like it didn't really respect your time. It expected you to put a lot into the game to really get that level of enjoyment out. I mean, down to almost like the optional objectives as well. Like each level has sort of a set of 3 optional objectives, and they'll be like avoid the 5 crabs as you go through the beach, and you need to play the level, memorize exactly where they are, know exactly where you're going to jump every single time. And like I say, most of these things realistically are optional, but in some ways they're also kind of where the fun is, and it takes a lot of dedication to work for that fun, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I don't really want to talk about this game. Chris, you played it as well. What do you think of it?
Oh, Adam. Oh.
Oh,
Do
God.
you know what? I didn't mind it, but then I only played 2 worlds of it.
Yeah.
I recorded some video for it.
Yeah.
And I'd got onto the forest bit, and I thought, yeah, I've done all right. And there was one level on there, which is where it. I mean, this is 2 worlds in. This is where it started to kind of become like, oh, for God's sake. Like I keep. You're right about memorizing the tracks, because you have to remember where certain things are, because unless you're like super good, what am I talking about? I'm a writer.
Fine. You're American.
If you're super good,
I'd like Americans. Oh God, what am I doing?
Then you're not gonna have a problem. But like, my brain couldn't cope. But like, that's like, there will be people that this will be their one game for a while, and they have been waiting for this, and this is what they live for. Like, there's plenty of replayability in it. You can go back to the first few levels and complete all the challenges by replaying them all over again. You don't have to do them all in one run. The courses, what bothered me is the dialogue and the cutscenes at the start of the level for just 1 minute of playing, and then you have to listen to some like really hilarious surfer bro talk for like a minute, and then you go on to the next stage, and then you have to listen to the kooky friends who are all hilarious. And I'm not appreciative of the writing. But like it looks amazing. Like, so the colors are so bold and beautiful, and like the level designs are great, but there's a lot of faff. I'd much rather them just like, I'd love there to be a mode. I don't think there might be, so I do apologize, where you could just go into the level and just play the level. You don't have to listen to any dialogue. I know you can kind of skip some of the chatter to just jump in, but I'd like to just be able to just play it, just go through a load of levels and just play it, and not have to listen to all these bollocks.
Yeah, the closest thing to that is there's sort of like a random, I don't know if it's necessarily generating the levels or there's just loads of them, but there's like a random level mode where you just sort of like put in how hard you want it to be, what sort of area you want it to be, but they're actually really dull because they haven't been made by a human.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So it's not really the same, but that's sort of another aspect of the replayability. And, there's like, you get a code for each level so you can share it with your friends and compete for the high scores and stuff like that. And it's like, it's a cool idea, but like usually it just sort of won't really have the soul of the, proper campaign levels, if you will, which is a shame. I mean, that's just it though. There's a lot about OlliOlli World I really like. And like, I would like another game that looked like OlliOlli World, but played like a different game, or like I'd like another game that had the customization for a character of OlliOlli World, because I loved making my character and unlocking outfits because the outfits are amazing. Like the fashion was perfect in OlliOlli World. There was a lot of Hawaiian shirts and bright colours. I was quite happy with it.
But don't you think that's missing the, not for you, I mean, don't you think that putting all the time and effort into that is missing the point? Like
I mean, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Not you. Not at all. I mean, if you like it, that's cool. But I mean, like, oh Christ, we try and. I think we generally try to be kind of upbeat on this podcast. Like, this game's really left me quite sad because I loved those first 2 games, and I remember thinking, oh, what a cool indie dev this is that's done this, that, and the other. And like, I feel like, look, caveat here, for big caveat, and I wonder if you'll agree with this, Lyle. If you've never played OlliOlli before, or 2, you'll probably like this. Actually, I probably think you could play this and have plenty of fun with it. I think, wow, this is really cool and unique and new. I feel the problem, but the thing is, who is this? Who's it being made for? Because surely when you go away and like go undercover, and then 7 years later come back with OlliOlli World, surely the target audience is someone like me who was like, oh God, I love those games like you read about. I don't. Especially releasing it now, like I can't see it punching through to anyone other than people like you and me, Lyle, who are lovers of the first game.
Yeah, it is. It's a tricky one.
I just don't think the thing that you should be playing OlliOlli World and coming in saying, "Oh, it looks amazing and the customization's amazing," but
skateboarding shit.
The skateboarding's just like
I'm paraphrasing.
Look, the art is good, like really good, like it's a beautiful game. I don't think it actually serves the game that well. I think it kind of actually muddies the visual sort of I think it makes it more difficult, I think, because of the aesthetic being blended the way it is. I found that more difficult. Like when I boot it up and the first thing is like I've got to watch a cutscene and then I've got to design my border, and I'm like, I don't care about any of this. I just want to be like flicking the stick around and doing tricks and grinding, and remind me how to do that again because it's been 7 years. And like you said in I think in Discord, and Chris has said here, yes, you can skip the cut scenes and all that. Is that a good thing? Is that not worse than just not having a story or forcing you to watch the story? Because like putting a button in for the first time when it gets a cutscene that you can skip it, I always see that with any developer. I'm like, why would you let me skip this the first time?
I guess you never learn about the 5 skate gods of Radlandia.
No, but I mean in any game, when it comes up with skip, and it's like, but I've never seen this before. Why would I skip this? Like, it should always be a thing the second time round.
Maybe it's maybe that's right. It should be.
I started this and I'm like, this is slow, isn't it? This is slow for someone who's played all the OlliOlli sort of thing, and then I kind of just like went, it's just the same again, but with a different art style. Like, I don't feel like I'm seeing anything new. And I felt like Lyle said, the optional objectives were really cool in the previous games, and it felt like the levels were designed with those in mind.
Yeah.
Whereas this doesn't feel like that to me. This feels like, I don't know, it feels like you see a random thing on a course and you're like, oh shit, oh well, I missed that now. And that's another thing for me, is that I don't know, maybe I don't know if it's like this in all formats. I remember the OlliOlli games being much quicker to restart when you failed. Much quicker. Like Super Meat Boy quick, like touch a button, there you go, you're done again. Now, I appreciate that with the kind of upgrade to the graphics, that maybe is harder to do. But I think that's kind of one of the core tenets that you have to have in a game that's like this. Like in a sort of score attack, Twitch-based game, you have to be able to just touch it and go... It's only seconds. Like, I'm not saying it's like, oh god, but like before it was like press a button.
It's a long time when you're.
Well, you have to hold triangle. No, hold start, isn't it? Which is it?
Triangle.
I think it's start anymore.
Tap triangle to restart at a checkpoint,
or hold it
to restart the level. Yeah.
But I felt like before there was just like tap a button to restart rather than having to hold it. Because if you're playing this game like the other ones, you don't want to start at a checkpoint. You want to start at the beginning. It should be around the other way, like hold to go back to a checkpoint. If you're playing this game like the other two, you want to start again because you don't want to fail in your run. You want a clean run, don't you?
I don't know. I got further on and I wanted to restart those checkpoints every time.
Yeah. But that's kind of also where Trials, the series, I don't know if you guys like, that's where that went as well, is that, when you got to like the ultra extreme ones where you would watch people and be like, how are you doing that? I remember doing one of them and it was, you're vertical almost. But it was like, okay, I don't care if I've 300 fails.
No,
I'm doing this bit
up.
now. I've got this far.
Absolutely.
But that was also kind of where that series started to lose me a bit. So I don't know. I don't know. I think I thought it would be grander. Like when maybe that's the name. I don't know.
I think the name OlliOlli World to me makes it sound like it's some sort of big almost like a series reboot. Maybe not to that level, but it makes it sound like something is going to be kind
Yes, different.
of there's going to be a bigger change about it, and it
Yes.
very much is more of the same from what I remember of the first two games.
But with a different art style and customization, I suppose, in the story.
Yeah, and yeah, maybe not quite balanced as well.
Like, listen, good luck to him. Like, massive good luck to him, because I love that studio, and I think they've
Yeah.
always come across well, and I hope this game does brilliantly for them. I really do. Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't vibe with me at all. Like, I really couldn't get into it. And that made me sad, Lyle. I'm sorry, but
No, I can understand. I was much like, because we talked a little bit as I was sort of playing through, and I was quite hot on the game for that sort of
yes.
World 2, World 3 time, and like
And that
I
made
think
me
you were
really happy, by the way, because I was like, oh, I just need to play a bit more of it, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's great. When I've got some time, then great. And then you
And
come
then
back and again, like, oh,
and then it just sort of all fell apart a bit for me,
Maybe I
unfortunately.
won't then.
But I don't
Well,
know. I mean, you could get to World 2 or 3.
yeah, but there's a lot of talking to do that, and I'm not. Yeah. Let's move on. Christopher Hyde, is there anything else you'd like to talk about that you've played? Did you get a chance to play it? It's on this list still.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before we start.
Before you throw me in and go, I haven't played anything.
So, yeah, third game this week is Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Yeah, like I'm glad you said it, because I keep in my mind I just see it as Arceus. So I'm glad you
That's an acceptable pronunciation.
Yeah. So yeah, Pokemon Legends Arceus. So my love affair or not of Pokemon games, a bit of a weird one. I always fall off them, generally speaking, Pokemon games. I always start them and I always think, oh, this is going to be the one, this is going to be great. And I really enjoy the first few hours, and then I just feel like, oh, it's just grinding random battles, and I never finish them, right? And it's always my thing. But it's weird because like I like the idea of it. I like the Pokemon.
What you said
themselves.
is not unfair, by the way. Like, Lyle is a big Pokemon fan. What you said there is totally fair.
Yeah, and I've probably spent far too long on Pokemon Go over the years as well. I like the idea of like the Pokemon themselves and catching them and that whole concept. It's not like I just don't like the concept of the franchise. I do. I want to enjoy Pokemon. I've always seemed to fall off them. And so, like, starting this game, I'm hands up, I'm like 2 to 3 hours in, right? And I know it's probably best part of 20?
20 for the... it's still too early. I don't want to get spoilery, but it's more than 20.
Okay, more than 20. So
if you enjoy
not even 10% probably into the game, right? So I'm early, but this is my early impressions of the game.
In the preview sense?
No, not in a preview sense.
Oh.
Surely not.
Well, I suppose to you it is.
But it's more just
it's
my
a preview of your final impressions, because you haven't got final impressions yet.
Okay, yeah.
Semantics.
You just want to make me say in a preview sense every single time I talk, don't you?
Yeah,
I haven't finished Dying Light. That should have been a preview sense.
Should have been. You're right. Yeah. Shit. So should mine. Too late. Go on. Pokemon, the final verdict. Go.
Yeah. So the final word. I'm really enjoying what I'm playing so far. I feel like, obviously you did the review, Adam.
Yes.
It very much feels like you said it in the review. It very much feels like a modern take on the Pokemon series, because it is a game that literally it's not kind of restrained by what it used to be. Very much feels like it's gone right, and literally almost in everything it does, like the story and stuff, which I won't spoil and stuff. It literally kind of mixes it up and just goes, what could this be? How could this journey take place, and what could your experience of it be, despite it at its core being about filling a Pokedex essentially. But it feels so much more interesting, less overbearing to do just that. The having Pokemon wander around the world, and you can kind of sneak up on them if you want to, chuck a Pokeball at them, and then carry on with about your business. It just feels more relaxed and liberating than having to go through an endless grind of trying to achieve things.
Running around in grass to get the random one to appear.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no randomness to it. You can literally, I know it sounds stupid, but you literally see the Pokemon. So like, you know what you're going up against. And I like the fact that you absolutely can, and I'm not saying that I won't, but depending on time, you don't have to 100% the Pokedex to clear the Pokedex, if that makes sense. So like there's different things. There's almost like a checklist of things for each Pokemon, isn't there? And you have to get a score of 10 for a Pokemon to kind of max out that Pokedex. Fill out the Pokedex entry, I guess is the way of saying it. But after that, if you get more than 10 points, your score still stays at 10. So you could, 100% but you don't have to. So if people want to go crazy and catch 50 Bidoofs for some apparent reason, then to get that one tick, then you go nuts, my friend. But you don't have to. You can finish that entry without doing all of that. So I think that's really good because it literally just says, you've got a choice of how you want to do this, and you can choose which ways you want to do it, what ways suit you. I'm enjoying it. I know I've only just scratched the surface. The story it's too early for me to say whether it's a great story. It's all right. I'm introduced to new characters and stuff, but I couldn't possibly say whether I know enough to know, well, I was floored by that thing. But it's all right. It's keeping me going. I will say about the visuals, because I think it's important, because a lot of people have an opinion on it. I will say the area around the village and when you're inside houses, it looks bare and blocky. It does, and it looks a bit horrible. But you're in those areas for a very small proportion of your overall adventure. And actually, when you get out into the wild, and you're right, you're absolutely right in your review. When the light hits just right, or you get lost in the moment, you're not thinking about any of that stuff. You're in the moment of catching the Pokemon, and it looks, I don't want to say good enough because that sounds really kind of...
It looks good at times. I think it looks absolutely fine.
Yeah, absolutely fine. And sometimes, like you say, when you get the good lighting effects, or maybe it's like dawn or dusk or whatever, it looks really nice. It never wows me, but I'm thinking about something else at the time, so it doesn't wow
you visually, but I wonder if you've had the same thing as me, whereas when you see a Pokemon that you haven't seen yet, it makes you you do go because you're like, I was watching my son play this, and listen, the game's out now, so I can say what I want, but Pikachu appeared for me at one point in the game, and I put 40 hours into it at this point, and I think that's the only one I saw in the wild, and I caught it. And then when my son was playing it, one appeared in the wild for him, but it was a Pichu, the de-evolved, pre-evolved, I guess, Pikachu.
Yeah.
And we both saw it, and it's that exciting moment, and you don't get that in other Pokemon games in the same way. You still might get a random spawn, but usually by the time you're running around in grass to get spawns, it's because you've read a guide on how to get the legendaries or how to farm this, that, or the other. In this game, the magic is you see it and you go, holy shit, I have to catch that. And like there are legendaries in this game, and of course there are. And you will always have another chance to... There's no like, oh, well, if you don't get it now, you're never getting that legendary. I mean, apart from anything else, there's a trading mechanic in the game. But you do, because they are tough battles, and always were, the pressure to get it in the ball. Me and my boy were sort of almost like bloody, golf fans. Get in the ball, get in the hole. You know what I mean? It was like, get in. And he at one point ran out of like every ball bar one. It was just the standard Pokeball, and it was never going in that Pokeball because it was a legendary. Yeah. And eventually, he just literally sat there for 30 minutes throwing Pokeballs because he had a Pokemon that it couldn't hurt. It was like strong against everything he had. And I don't think you get that in other Pokemon games. I think this brings an excitement and a fresh feeling to actually the core basics of catching a pocket monster.
Yeah.
It's exciting throwing a ball at an Oshawott.
Yeah, and it is. And what, again, you're totally, you nail this in your review as well, because for me, the other thing that annoys me about, or has annoyed me about Pokemon games in the past, is when you just go, I've run out of fucking Pokeballs, or I've run out of this, I've got to go to a shop and just the simple crafting mechanic. It's not revolutionary, but in this game, it's just another move to say, actually, we don't want this game being about you absolutely panicking to leave a town, worrying if you've got enough stuff. That's not what we want this game to be about. We want this game to be about you exploring the world, discovering stuff, and having fun with it.
You can stay out as long as you want.
You can stay out as long
even
as
if you run out of
want.
resources, just go get some more.
And it's not even. I did worry when it started getting dark. I was like, oh, is it going to?
No, that's a good thing because now you're going to see.
You best get back to town, otherwise you'll die of exhaustion.
No.
Oh no, it just goes. Oh no, here's some Pokemon that only come out at night.
Pokemon now, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, brilliant! So it's not even that. Like, it's actually a better thing than I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
And it just, like I say, I'm only 2 to 3 hours in, but I haven't like rolled my eyes once. The only thing I was rolling my eyes at is at the very start when I just wanted the game to start.
You wanted it does start slowly.
I wanted to be in it, like because everything else, like I'm just like, actually, this is actually really respectful of my time. It wants me to have fun, and I recognize some of these Pokemon, so that's cool as well. So you know, and I'm sure when I see a equivalent of a Pikachu in the wild, I'll be absolutely giddy. You know, because as soon as I saw the Gen 1 ones for the first time, I was like, oh, I know these ones like the back of my hand. Not some of the weird random later ones, but
no, there are smart Pokemon in this game.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Let's see how I feel right when I finished it, but I can very much see the changes that I've seen make me very hopeful, because it seems to have kind of done away with some of the things that take me away from Pokemon games traditionally. So that's only a positive for me, because it just keeps me playing it.
Great.
Which is annoying when I have so much to play and I just said I want to go back to Dying Light. I want to go back to this.
I must admit, I keep looking at it going, I could just go and I keep filling that Pokedex, because although I've finished it, I haven't filled the Pokedex.
Always do more.
Yeah. Let's do some listener correspondence. Let's do some more of that. Deadbeat Punk from Discord says, I want to know about the strange rabbit holes that you've gone down online. Recently found Tip of My Joystick, which is a subreddit for people that half remember games but don't know the title or other major details, not forcibly inserting controllers into themselves, which I was originally trying to find. So have you discovered a strange niche online that you stumbled across and suddenly found yourself at home? Bonus points as always for Croc. Well,
what a question.
Any strange rabbit holes? I've got one. I wouldn't say that I found myself at home, but I do remember the biggest rabbit hole I think I went down was there's this, I can't remember his name now, but there's this guy, and it was like in, I guess, probably the 70s and 80s, and he used to go up like cleaning steeples and stuff, but obviously back then they didn't have all the safety equipment, and like he would climb up these buildings and clean stuff up or whatever, and he became a bit of a mini celebrity. I can't think of his bloody name. Was it Ted something? He looked like Ted from Fast Show. You know what I mean? That kind of, flat cap and that. And he would climb up these enormous buildings and like using just like a bit of rope and some wood. And like he would, the scaffolding was he made it himself. Like he'd hammer a bit of scaffolding as he went up, then put another bit in, and he would take that bit. And, it was like free climbing. And I think he ended up helping like with blowing up buildings and stuff, because you have to, and I found it absolutely fascinating. It was from Bolton. That's all I can remember. But I'm going to type in Bolton Steeplejack. Fred Dibner. Fred Dibner. That's him.
What?
He's a steeplejack. Fred Dibner. Frederick
you said
MBE.
Ted.
He's dead, isn't he?
He is dead.
My dad's obsessed with Fred Dibner.
It's fascinating watching the man work. Like watching an art. Like he's also a bit of an old geezer. Like he's kind of got a cigarette. You know what I mean? He's almost like. I don't know. Maybe he was an awful human being, but I hope not.
If Roy Chubby Brown was a bad form, Dibner would be the good form, because they look very similar.
Well, I hope he was a good guy. I mean, he was from the sort of, he was born in the 30s, so you just don't know.
We're not going down the U-tree path here, sunshine.
Well, I just listen. He was born in the 30s, so you just don't know. He could be an absolute horrible, But that was and I just spent a full afternoon. This is a long time ago. Full afternoon going just watching this guy's videos, just being fascinated by. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Think about where we are now with like health and safety, what you can and can't do. And this bloke was just. I mean, he became a legend, didn't he, in Bolton?
I don't know.
Well, you knew he was. At least you knew he was.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Okay, so what other rabbit holes have you guys gone down? I gave you enough time there. I talked about Bolton's Fred.
I go down YouTube rabbit holes and Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
All right.
Pimple poppers. Are you into the old pimple poppers?
No, I hate them.
Oh, gross.
All those things where they're like pull stuff out of things, like like pull stuff out of people's ears, or like they think they've got a little splinter and they've got this. Oh,
Yeah.
Ooh.
I used to have to
Sorry,
watch that. I used to have to watch that.
Have to what?
Well, back in 2021, I went for a bit of a split dinner. So back in the day, Lauren used to enjoy watching all
I'm
spot
not laughing
videos.
at your situation. I'm laughing at.
So
Go on.
you're laughing at.
Yeah.
So no, I don't have to watch that shit. But I'm obsessed with Bob Ross, and I will spend hours watching that. Old wrestling videos on YouTube, shit like that. Lyle knows what I'm talking about.
Yep.
The classics. But no, just nothing obscene, apart from when I'm watching porn. But no, nothing weird.
Well, I guess it's my turn to make it weird, isn't it?
I mean, should we not build a bit more?
Yeah, build a bit more. Fine. I'll be a finale.
I don't think Chris has got one. But looking at his face,
No, I mean, like every now and then, like I just like
what could
no,
last?
like I normally find like modders of games or random 90s kids TV programs or 80s kids TV. I'm just going, I remember this. Remember watching Nightmare on ITV or
How
something.
many times have you watched like compilations of 80s kids in cartoon intros on YouTube?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Like DuckTales and Gummy
Banging.
Bears and stuff like that. Like but like I never find myself going, holy crap, how did I get here? This is weird. This is not socially acceptable. Unless Nightmare's not socially acceptable anymore. I don't know. Maybe that was a
Just to be clear, I don't think that Fred Dibner's unacceptable.
No, I think
I mean, he might. Again, I don't know.
It was a nonce.
Oh, I see.
I'm building up
Yeah.
to what Lyle's talking about.
Okay, go on, Lyle. They've waited long enough.
I'd like to point out, by the way, that these are not places that I thought of as a new home either. So
Yeah, I
before
don't
we
want to be.
start off,
Yeah, I don't think I'm a steeplejack.
So one of the things that happened on a YouTube deep dive was when looking. I think my partner was looking for an old song that was something really obscure, and the only way we found it was that it was being used in the background of like a Sims 2 music video, and apparently there's a big. At the time, at least, there was kind of a big sort of scene of mainly teenagers who sort of used video they captured from The Sims 2 to tell stories. And I went down this odd rabbit hole of watching videos like there was one that was like supposed to be like a teen girl, and it was set to some like song that I guess was anorexia based, and it was like the story of a teen girl like starving herself to death told via Sims 2. And you've got to applaud the effort, I guess. It was someone had put a lot of time into that, but it was really unusual. It was extremely unusual.
No, it is.
It is. But
yeah.
So
that's a medium some people tell stories, I guess.
When
Apparently
you started that, I was like, it's just Sims 2. This can't be weird. And then you just blew me out of the water.
That's a rabbit hole and a half. That is.
Yeah. I mean, and I explored further into it. And I mean, really, when you look further into it,
the only way to go is deeper.
Oh, the only way is deeper. Oh, no.
There's your title.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, the more you dive into it, the more it just sort of gets hornier and therefore worse. So
I mean, there's another title. Yeah, second one,
Appealing.
subtitle there.
So yeah, that's one of them.
That's your third. I actually remembered another one.
When you say hornier, what happens? Come on, because I want to know.
There was
Just an example.
There are a lot of outfits
Good lad.
in The Sims 2 that are sort of mascots, like teddy bear mascots and things like that. And
Furries.
I mean, I didn't want to outright say furries, but I
Why
mean,
is
yes.
that a bad? Is that a bad thing? Have I done a bad thing?
I mean, it's not a bad thing, but
Didn't
it
think
wasn't.
was.
I didn't want to watch furry
But you
Sims
did.
2 erotica.
But you did.
But I
It's
guess
important
I
to
did.
know that you did.
It is important to know that, but
And
you
I'm
know,
guessing not just once.
I kind of want to now as well.
Maybe
might
we should do
Google
a
it.
group viewing.
report back next
Nobody
week.
needs that. Nobody needs that. I mean, wow. I guess, yeah. I mean, I was just going to say that I've remembered that sometimes in the evenings I get down a little rabbit hole of, YouTube Shorts, it just...
Yeah.
YouTube Shorts when it's like people doing like these, this thing you need from Amazon, these tools you haven't heard of, and a lot of them are people putting fucking dowel pins into wood, putting glue in it, and then putting a screw into the dowel pin, and it's like, yeah, okay, boring. Why did I waste my time and my life? I've got precious little left as it is, and you've like it's
shorts. Shorts definitely. I end up watching some random crap.
I mean, shorts are the old man's TikTok, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I like to think I'm still hip by looking at shorts.
To watch
no, Chris, you're not hip. Sorry, mate. I didn't want to do this live, but okay. The real Captain Redemption from Discord has the question: Can Lyle?
I mean,
you probably saw this in Discord and thought they won't ask that if he's on the pod, right to his face. We will. Can Lyle possibly get any worse?
Right. Can I just say, from when he answered that question to now, I would answer yes.
Do you need an answer? I think ask the man himself.
I'd say yes.
I was going to say, do you feel that the Discord has seen the depths? No, I don't want to say depths of your depravity. I want to say, I don't want to say the depths of your trolling because that makes it sound insincere. How would you phrase this? The worst of Lyle.
The worst of Lyle.
How close are we? Like, if it's a meter filling up, like a loading bar to 100%, what percent are we at right now in Discord?
I think we're about a 60.
Not a 6.5.
That's fair. That's fair.
Not a 6.5. Not quite at that level yet.
We're approaching it though, aren't we?
We're getting close.
It's
but no,
worrying, though, isn't it? When you start, what would like 86 be or something? Like, I just, if 60 gets us to what we've just heard.
I forgot we were live for a minute and nearly said something I'd have regretted.
Wow.
No, I'll tell you after.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. No, I'll
tell you guys about. Yeah, like listen.
Yeah. My insufferability is still, slightly tapered off, just to make sure that people don't leave the Discord.
So what you're saying is you're Lyle, but you're palatable at the moment.
I'm palatable Lyle right now.
You're suppressing your true self so we don't all leave Discord. Is that what
you're going to say? You're sobriety Lyle.
I am sobriety Lyle. I'm Lyle, but with sort of like a cloak of Febreze over the top of it. Where you just sort of like, if you put some Febreze over it, you can ignore it.
But the trouble is now I'm imagining you naked on a table being sprayed with Febreze.
Yeah. So now you're
is that the trouble?
But you smell a little bit better.
Well, it could be worse.
It could be worse. As you said, 60%. God knows what happens when we get to 69%. I mean, I'm out that day. And on that note, that is the podcast for this week. We have got loads of games still being played that we still can't talk about. I think everyone here is playing a game they can't talk about, if not more than one.
Yes.
And more release dates are being announced soon. They just announced Shadow Warrior 3 March 1st. There's another game getting a release date very soon. It's busy. There's lots of games. I do wonder who's going to sort of shit out in all of this because nobody can play all of these games, especially if you have to pay for them and you're not some journo shit boy. You know what I mean? Who's got to get the free stuff.
Reviewers!
Oh, here he goes again.
We didgeridoo. And on that note, thank you very much for watching or listening to this podcast. However you choose to, take it on. We do it live on YouTube, and then it goes quiet. But if you're a Patreon for £1 or more, you get to watch it over and over again. You can watch this hour repeatedly on the toilet, in your attic, in your basement, in the shed, in the garden, in your bed,
naked.
Yeah, listen. I don't mind the thought of people watching this naked. I mean, I'm naked from the waist down, so it only seems fair.
I always listen to it back naked.
Yeah, before I was on the podcast, I was pretty much only naked.
Yeah,
I put clothes on for the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hence the 60% and not the 400.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you to Chris and Lyle for being here this week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Wherever you are, whatever you choose to do, we love your support. We really, really do appreciate it. Sorry, laughing at a comment in the chat, which I can't read out right now because it's time to say goodbye. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, guys. And we will speak to you next week or whenever you choose to listen. Bye-bye for now.